Hey, y'all. This is Koi, and welcome to the podcast. Self care is selfish. That's right. I said it. And I'm being selfish right now, doing what I love to do. Talking about personal development, a little bit of odd facts here and there, and esoteric ish. Yeah, I'm one of those people that like to talk about the planets, stars, angel numbers, and chakras. That's me, okay? I found some hidden gems, I found some things that I had to dust off about myself, but also it was like, oh wow, like when I could really see myself in the mirror, and feel into myself, my soul, it was like, yeah, like learning how to really congratulate myself. And that's something that I want to like talk about right now, especially why I see entrepreneurship as a spiritual journey. And I want to talk about why self care is important for this journey. So let's get into it. So self care took a long time for me to deem selfish, like in a good way. You know what I mean? My entrepreneurship path has been over 10 years now and really has grown me into this person that I've aspired to be, but also didn't know I was this type of person. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of self discovery that actually surprised me. So, how my entrepreneurship journey really awakened my spiritual journey is, Lord, I don't even know if I can talk for this long, but we will get into it over the course of different episodes. So, I'd definitely love for you to stick around for that, because I'm all about self care and spiritual wellness for the entrepreneurship. We are the people, the way showers, and we really need to step into that confidence to be like, yes, I'm creating XYZ that's going to change ABC, and yeah, y'all need this, and it takes a while for us to really grow into that confidence. Sometimes people have that confidence, but trust, when you start getting rejected left and right, because that's just natural of what happens on your path, you don't get what you want every time. Especially if you're growing and transitioning, But a lot of times, I don't know. For me, it was just rejections left and right. Um, with what I first created for my first entrepreneur endeavor with t-shirts, people were complimenting the design, but they wasn't really buying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was making sales, but not like how I wanted. Damn sure not how I wanted to leave my job, which we'll get into that because I totally left my job in a not so good way. Not so good way. So let's go back to how the entrepreneurship awakened my spiritual journey, right? So I went to a graphic design school straight out of high school, and that was in Philly, U Arts. Anybody listening that's in U Arts, definitely comment, let me know. I didn't like that place. Um, I felt very out of my comfort zone, but looking back, there was a lot of insecurities of myself, but definitely of my creativity. I didn't know the talents I had. um, Let alone I didn't know Koi like I know Koi now. Cause like to know your creativity is to know yourself, and to love your creativity is to love yourself as well, you know? And I was in a horrible relationship, and that totally affected me as well. But I only stayed there for like a year and a half, right? And then I went to massage school, got introduced to Reiki and metaphysics, and that blew my mind. But I was still living in the hood amongst hood people, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, and and it triggered me, hurt pain about me being very different in the environment that I lived in. And long story short, I went back to school and I did graduate, got my bachelor's, and right around senior year, right? Um, I started thinking about my passions. It was like senior year, everybody's wondering like what you going to do? Are you going to get a job? Did you land that internship? And I started thinking like what types of jobs do I want to be as a designer? Like really? Like sky's the limit, right? Like I paid in sweat and tears and commuting hours on end. Like this shit better pay off. I remember saying that. And I'm like, well, I should be getting a job, right? I started realizing it was kind of hard to get an internship, at least the ones that I wanted. And I kept hearing this word about the recession. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a political person at all. I'm very dumbfounded when it comes to that stuff. Um, Ignorant, if you may. I don't know. But yeah, I was feeling like I couldn't get into that. So I was like, this is weird. If it was for my cousin that was in printmaking, he had a job that was printing t-shirts. So I was like, ooh, cuz, can you hook me up? Like I need an intern. And they're like, sure. So I didn't really get to do the work there, honestly, but I wanted to do the work. But unfortunately, some way, shape, or form, my cousin, I don't want to say didn't allow me to do the work, but he really wasn't there to like guide me in a way that I needed to learn the machines and stuff. So it was basically one of those like privileged moments where he just signed stuff off. But I do remember senior year, I forget what class this was. It might have been the internship, but these people that were professionals that graduated from FIT came back and told their story. And it was like four people, right? And I just remember this one guy, it was a magazine company that he worked for, and it was a small magazine, and he kept it real. Like I knew he was coming in with no punches, because somebody really had the nerve to say like, yeah, you guys are graduating in the recession, so like good luck with getting jobs. And we were like looking around like, what the hell? And then I remember this guy, I don't remember his name, I can vaguely remember how he looked, but he came through and was just talking real life stuff. And I do remember he was of color. So it was kind of like, ooh, because in the world of graphic design, it's mainly white men in colleges and in professional life, the art designers. I don't know if it's changed now because I haven't been in corporate like that in a while, but um, it was usually white men that were in charge of those titles. And so when you had the brother step up and start talking about real life stuff, he was like, yeah, these people sometimes will reject you. And so I was like, okay, perked up. And he said, if you want to talk more, anybody interested, ask the teacher for my information. I sure was. And I got his information. I reached out to him. I said, I'm very interested in what you do, your magazine. Like, I looked it up. I love that. I've always wanted to be involved in a magazine. The guy was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm happy to hear you're eager about this. He introduced me to the art director. He was this cool white guy that was just really into like streetwear and all this stuff. And he had a magazine, what was it called? It was called BRM. Um, I think it stood for Beyond Race Magazine. That's what it was. That's what it was. And I want to say when I saw it, I think J. Cole was on that cover. I can't remember, but mind you, J. Cole came out like, I want to say, what was that, 2010? Maybe 2009? And that's when I was at FIT. I graduated in 2011, Anyway, but I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I know I can do this. And I guess those guys just saw the passion in my eyes and was like, let's bring her on board. I remember I actually saw a few weeks ago I was looking for something in my email, and I saw some old emails messaging them like, I will work for free. I want to do this. And I remember, I think it was like it would have been like, it took some time to get the internship with BRM, but I wind up getting it for the summer when I graduated. And I was or I was just excited, honestly, thinking like, oh, I can really get like a job to do this, like whatever, whatever. Never had a salary job a day in my life, you know. So I was excited, but it only lasted me, I want to say, 2 months, because after those 2 months, he told me that like stuff, like I think whoever was in charge of that magazine, it was closing down. He said there's no money. He's actually looking for a job himself. And I'm like, damn, this sucks. And again, recession. I literally remember I worked for like this small internship publication for some small magazine that was like chocolatiers, something with like candy and something, I don't know. Um, I remember asking her about a job, right? When I graduated, I told her, this lady frantically, I don't know when I called her, but she literally was like, oh, I remember you. Are you seriously calling me about a job? Like, I'm about to get fired. This freaking recession is crazy. Blah, blah, blah. And just like went off on me about all her troubles, trying to basically projecting all her shit on me. And she was like, good luck with your finding a job. And then hung up on me. It was like it was crazy in New York City at that time, And I'm telling you, this was 2010, 2011. Um, so for me graduating, I don't know how everybody else felt, but for me, I felt a little worried because I still hadn't had a job. And, some of the people I was graduating from, they were like, yeah, I got a job at XYZ. Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, here we go. But it still held my passions in my heart. You know what I mean? Like, I still held the passions in my heart because it made me feel confident and it made me feel like the universe was on my side, if you may. And after that magazine incident, it seemed like every time I looked in my heart, sneakers came about. And I want to say probably throughout the whole 4 years I was at FIT, because I had to start college all over again. Like my year and a half at UArts in Philly had nothing to do with FIT. They basically just looked at my credits and was like, yeah, you gotta do it the FIT way, and like poured it down the drain basically. Um, that made me mad, but anyhow, I really had a chip on my shoulder back then. But regardless, like shoes and sneakers always held a specific place in my heart. I used to create things for projects around that. And when I graduated, I was like, passions, sneakers. Because the term sneakerhead was becoming very more apparent to me at that time. And I was like a good 3 or 4 years older than the kids that I graduated in high school. I'm not high school with at FIT with. Um, and I remember one of the girls that used to hang around me a lot, that we had a lot of classes together. She would tell me about these like sneaker events where people would trade and buy sneakers, and I was like, what? I never knew about that because one, I was so focused on commuting an hour and a half and just feeling like I didn't have enough money, like all this stuff, right? I just didn't know about that. And in Jersey, it wasn't quite that big yet. And I wound up looking up something with sneakers, and I found this company called Female Sneakerhead. So I was like, yo, what if they're looking for someone to work with? Didn't find a job there, but she was the lady that was in charge of it at that time. She was looking for interns. So I did like a few flyers, some type of graphics for her. And I was really eager, like, yo, what's up with the jobs? Like, what's going on? And she's like, I'll get back to you. I'm creating this book, blah, blah, blah. And then finally she like told me that I think she told me she was closing the company because she basically finished creating this book that she always wanted to do. Some mess. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that it wind up the door closed on me again. And oh my God, I have a story about the female sneakerhead that went full circle years later in New York, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about how that spiritual awakening really happened in my entrepreneurship. And basically, this is the crescendo. Like it was leading up to this part because I was still following my passions and my heart. You know what I mean? And I feel that when you follow your heart, you're following your intuition, you're following your passions, you're following your heart, you're following your intuition, right? That soul is speaking through you and saying, yeah, like I feel alive, I'm lighting up, you know, lead the way with light and love. You know what I mean? So I led the way, but I just wasn't trusting him because the doors was closing on me. Like, or it was just short lived. It was just like, yay. And then it was like, no, yay. And like, no. And I'm telling you, this has happened to me even when I was younger, but it was more apparent clearly because I was a young adult. You know what I mean? Like, I was around my parents, but more so fending for myself, you know? But like, if you think about it, following my passions really allowed me to follow my soul. And I find it so funny because, well, every time I looked into my heart, I saw and felt the sneakers, the love of sneakers that I had, you know, shoes. That's the soul, right? The soul of the design. And it led me to understand how to own a business, right? And then it led me to how to understand how to really add more purpose to your passions so you can actually start making a profit, you know, like turning your hobbies into a business, okay? But it also let me understand too how if I'm not right, my business ain't right either. And I definitely wasn't even able to look at it from that standpoint because there was a lot of fear that was surrounding me. Like I was getting rejected before I even started the entrepreneurship. That was pretty much the repeated theme of this plight, if you may. It just was a lot of like, oh, let's experience this. All right, it's closing, and a lot of things I could not control. And that's the thing about the awakening, right? Because for me, I feel that the awakening actually happened when I had enough of the rejection. At this point, like I was already seeing like the numbers, the 1111, um, the 611, which happened to be my birthday, um, and 911. And me and my sister had this thing ever since we were young, like, oh, it's good luck to see your birthday on the clock. So when I was seeing like 1111 and 911 and just repeating numbers, I'd be like, I thought it was kind of weird, but I was like, must be special. And it wasn't until I heard it in some astrology thing, because I back then too, like YouTube, I think YouTube probably was like 5 or 7 years old by then. And I used to watch these astrology videos, but I was like hiding it a lot. I was always interested in tarot, but I never actually did tarot until actually 2016, I think. But like with tarot, they talk about astrology, they talk about numerology. And these were all these things that I geeked out over. And I didn't even really like discuss it with my family so much. Like kind of, but like not really. But I hit it a lot. Because it's just a lot of people just didn't seem like they were interested in it. So I kind of just held it push down a side of me. But needless to say, it was just so much of pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, to the point where I think looking back, my soul, spirit, whatever, the universe was like, all right, we had enough of this. It's time. And I'm telling you, ever since then, stuff has woken up. There has been the clear audience woke up. Um, just the anxiety also woke up too. And if you can imagine, like having all these things happening, like cerebrally, right? Like I'm a highly creative person, which means I'm highly intuitive, because a lot of times when you're using your creativity, you are tapping into your intuitive side, right? There's a logic side and an intuitive side. To be point blank about the brain. I don't know much about the brain, but I do know that I'm left-handed and I've always been very creative. Like ideas, like what? Like I've always had abundant ideas. Now every idea doesn't always work. I'm not trying to toot my horn with that, but coming up with ideas, it just wasn't foreign to me. And I'm just saying this because looking back, it's just like from that time on, when it said it's time, I started shifting into seeing the world totally different. Not only because I was looking at numerology or astrology or anything like that, it was more so because my soul yearned for this passion to be met. And it almost turned into an obsession, almost too, you know? But my heart was yearning for that. And from that journey there on out, my heart did meet a lot of milestones that I'd love to get into in further episodes. Even meeting a certain someone, like there were things that my heart spoke, and I started to understand. It just felt alive and awakened, right, in my spirit. And then it just made me say, like, I have to understand what some of these things mean. I have to go down that rabbit hole. I have to understand why my body and my mind and my heart is feeling this way. And I started tapping into the chakras as well. And, when you think about it, when it comes to your chakras, right, you want to align those chakras. But if your mind and your heart is not really lining up, there's a problem with that. There was this disassociation with my thoughts and my heart. And that's what was really causing the anxiety and the excitement to cause more confusion and self-doubt. I just didn't trust myself, because it was like every time it just started, like the more I wanted to tap into my passions, the more I was bombarded with making bigger decisions. And I didn't trust these decisions. These decisions were definitely the trajectory of my career, like earning finances and stuff. Like, I got a chance to work with A&E television. Like, I got these chances to work around and be around a lot of different people, but I was constantly questioning my integrity. And when I say that, I mean like throughout my internship, going to the worst job ever, and becoming a freelance designer and really trying to build my own business, I was constantly like questioned by people, or just questioning myself, like, do I really want to do that for money? A lot of it had to do with money, because like I was seeing people do certain things that I just did not agree with doing for money. um I was also confronted by people asking me to do certain things just for money, and I'll kindly get into that later on too. And it was like, are you serious? It just boggled my mind how it felt like people just didn't have any type of morals. I hope I'm not sounding like I'm this prude, uptight person, but at the same time, I do have the soul, and I just felt like I loved myself enough to know that I was better than saying yes to certain things that were proposed to me. And like a lot of it, like I'm not trying to judge other people for their choices, but from the outside looking in, and also from what people would like wind up telling me, because some people I knew, like I was around, and it just seemed like it was almost like I do this for my 5 minutes of fame or something. And it's just like I want to be seen, but not like seen in that light, you know? So it's been a journey, totally. And I'd love to get into more of the journey that I've overcame and things that I want to celebrate with you, and the things that I've learned and the wisdom I gained. I'm going to wrap it up here because I don't want to take up so much of your time. But thank you for listening, especially those that listened all the way through. I appreciate you so much. Um, I'd love to hear more of what you think about these episodes. If you're liking it, or if there's any topics that are inspiring you, definitely drop that in the chat. I'm saying the chat, wherever you're watching this. And I'm going to leave a link for you so you can check out my wellness collection and ways that you can get updated on my blog. Okay, so check all those things out, and definitely just stop by and drop a comment, say hello. I love what you're doing. If you're feeling the vibe, definitely subscribe. Give me a shout out, and yeah, I'd love to see it. So until next time, I'm outie. I hope you stick around more because there's more to come. Peace.